Hey everyone, and welcome to Comics from the Multiverse, the DC Comics podcast from MailFuzz TV. This is episode 187. I am Peter, and I'm joined as always by Matt.
Hey, what's up?
And Connor's here too.
Yeah, and Pete's cooking the numbers.
How am I cooking the number? Well, are you not happy this is not 186 part 2?
Or 0.5, I would have accepted that.
0.25.
This is so clunky. No. This is 187, but this is the second half of a week of books because we had so many books. In fact, if let's say you've not been paying attention this past weekend to your feed, and you've downloaded this first because it's the newest one, and I'm about to read a list of books, so you're going to say, but wait a minute, where's Doomsday Clock? Why are you talking about Doomsday Clock? Because we did that already. We did half the books already in 186. So make sure you go back and get that episode. But this is 187, and obviously we didn't do our best of the week at the end of last episode because we're waiting until we've done all the books. So coming up on this episode, on this show, we're going to talk about Aquaman 55, Legion of Superheroes issue 2, Shazam issue 9, Jimmy Olsen issue 6, Metal Men issue 3, Harleen issue 3, Batman Last Night on Earth issue 3, Joker Killer Smile issue 2, and Basketful of Heads issue 3. So there's like 4 issue 3s in there.
I was going to say, that
bizarrely.
felt like a lot of threes.
A lot of threes. And 2 of them are finale issues as well, so...
and huge.
And relatively huge, yes. I haven't read Last Night on Earth, so I don't know how long that was, but...
Nearly as long as
I did.
That sounds like a happy man.
It's one of those ones where you wish you didn't.
I have a feeling Connor's going to disagree with you.
I'm saying nothing till we get there. I have thoughts.
Okay.
You guys and your flair for the dramatic, just out with it already.
You'll see.
I don't have thoughts. I didn't read it. My thoughts were had before I even read issue 1. I was like, no, I'm not doing this. Hands in the air. That was my thoughts.
Smart.
Well, I often think so, Matt. So,
Oh.
Given that the first 2 issues at least were great, I wouldn't call that smart.
what? So if the ending sucks, and I feel like I've wasted my whole time, like that seems like a smart choice to me.
I don't know. The first
this
2
is
issues were still pretty enjoyable.
You could say this is a better conversation for something else as well.
In which case, my argument holds true in both cases, doesn't it?
It does. Oh, man.
Okay. Well, yeah, big old books. No news, nothing like that. This will be a straight, simple episode of the 9 books, and then our best stuff of the week, because it is part 2, essentially, of a week.
And it's still got 9 books.
It's now got 9 books, and part 1 for the record just about hit 3 hours with 8 books, but admittedly 80 minutes of that were Doomsday Clock. So
Do you know the worst place? I'm pretty sure 9 books might be more than whatever we have on the next episode.
most certainly is, actually. I'll be telling you at the end what's coming not next week, but the following week.
Following normal episode.
Yes. Of course, we actually still have our episode, though, at the regular time this weekend because it's our annual episode, and I'll tell you about that now because what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a Google Doc for everyone at home to sort of vote a little bit on your best of the year, because obviously in the annual episode we pick our best of the year, do our top 10 books, and we do pick our favourite artist, writer, and so on the whole year. So going to give you guys a chance to vote in that as well, and it won't affect our picks, but it'll be something we can add on to each section as, hey, okay, so this is what everyone else voted for at home, and we'll see how much they line up with what we end up deciding. So I think that the idea is this year we're going to have our individual top 10 series, but we'll do the same thing as we've done before, where we sort of debate who the best art or best writer, and so on, maybe best and worst kind of moment of the year, and that kind of thing. So that's what's coming on the annual episode, annual number 4, coming at the usual time on Sunday, or a little bit early for patrons on sometime in the Saturday night. But this episode, though, is straight to business. Aquaman 55, which is DeConnick and Robson Rocha on the art. And I lost my file with all the names, so if I feel like I'm hesitating with the names as I'm doing creators, that's why. But it's fine. We'll survive. So, Aquaman 55. I thought it was a solid issue. I think last issue suffered a little bit. This one was mostly action, But Rocha was on art the whole issue, as opposed to the last time where it was kind of a shared duty with Jesus Marino. And I thought the mech fighting stuff with the monster, and even Mira doing her kind of like giant water version of herself, were both pretty fun visuals to play around with.
Yeah, that was pretty rad. Kelly Sue's killing it with this like moments in this book. Because when she had the realization that Mara is the monster too, early on, and then you saw the mecha, you kind of knew what's happening. I wasn't expecting gigantic water mirror though.
No, that was pretty cool.
It's actually not the only issue this week where I was impressed with mech-sized action. More than that later.
Yeah.
But no, I think because the mana inclusion into this run felt a little bit forced because of the whole Year of the Villain stuff in places. But I think this issue was the one that I just completely forgot why he was here and just kind of enjoyed. I
still found all the time that the mech Manta Daddy was talking was kind of just, I wasn't feeling it at all.
It feels off.
Yeah, all of the conversations just felt off, like Matt said. But the action was great, so it kind of made up for it.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't really bother me in this issue, but at the same time, I didn't really like it either. It was just kind of, it's there, it's doing what it's doing. And everyone's kind of banded together. There's some nice pages there when Arthur kind of comes through the water when they find him again. He kind of, there's this great page of all these like thin, like, vertical panels of him like sort of rising to the surface, which were really pretty. And when he gets out of the water, it's literally Mira with a giant water hand holding him. So they finally have kind of their reunion, and they get a few words with each other sort of mid-fight. Of course, Mira, after draining herself by fighting the mech, along with Aqualad, who kind of like has to sort of join alongside her to have enough power, at the end of the issue she collapses, and we end in a bit of a cliffhanger of like, oh dear. So it's entirely possible she might miscarriage. I feel like that's what we're kind of teasing here.
I mean, having a Aztec fertility god there, I think she'll be okay.
And not to do too much spoiler stuff, but I'm pretty sure there's been some stuff in solicits and such that implied that there is a child.
But not everyone's crazy like us, Connor. So
yeah, that's true. But I mean, I don't know, for whatever reason, I don't think this would have ever have struck me as anything was actually going to go that wrong. I don't know.
No, but in continuity, if you know your Aquaman, they do have a baby that gets, fridged, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
So, if you're a longtime Aquaman fan, I could see the worry. But, again, knowing that Locke was there with her, like, that's what I'm counting on. I'm going out of the story here, because I don't think, like, the fact that Kelly Sue did so much research into these, aqua gods, they're just not there for no reason, right? Like,
it's kind of interesting that this one's a fertility god, but linked with the sea. That's pretty unusual.
Yeah, that's the Aztec gods though too, because water was such a. I mean, if you know about the Aztec myth of their major city where Mexico City is now, it was all underwater, and they had to build from.
It makes sense given that water is life, but generally speaking, most cultures, the fertility goddesses would generally link with the earth rather than water.
Right. Yeah. So, but there's another one too, and I can't remember. I just remember Locke because I looked that up for the annual, because he was the one that they thought was with the missing children and whatnot.
Yeah.
Or with the dog, or it was the dog with the children.
Yeah.
But yeah. So.
Which notably set after this issue, so this actually gets us back up to date with where the annual was set.
Also, Jackson Aqualad, he got the lightning power.
Yeah.
That's new, right?
As far as I know.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him use it before. I will say, just on the art as well, obviously the monster stuff looked really good. I also really like the panel where it's just before he goes even bigger than he was before, because as we find out, the hatred in the fighting is actually just making the monster stronger and stronger. But there's a page where he kind of smiles as he's starting to turn into the monster again, and the tentacles are coming around his face. I thought that panel looked in particularly very good. No, I mean, this was all art and action for the most part. Not a whole lot in terms of sort of writing beats. I mean, there's a couple of good moments, don't get me wrong, but this was all about the spectacle, and I think the spectacle actually paid off. There was moments where Mecha Manta was just like standing in the water, and the water was only up to its knees, and the scale felt quite good, which is
Pretty
nice.
cool.
So,
yeah, and that was the thing about Mara and the monster that he is that it's drawn to the hatred, and so I think that's curious as to see exactly why he showed back up, because it wasn't just because of Manta.
No, he was coming before Manta. That was well established, I think.
So we'll see where that's going. I mean, this is really good Aquaman, though. Like, we're very fortunate that Aquaman's kind of on the rise right now.
Yeah, Aquaman's actually been pretty solid for the most part since Rebirth started, and that's kind of a weird thing to say, because Aquaman doesn't necessarily
deserves
always
it.
Get to the top of the pile in that sense.
Yeah.
Mechamata's head gets swiped off by Mira.
Yeah, because it's more like a ejection, because basically Black Manta's gonna take himself out. You know, like almost like a kamikaze kind of thing, but the AI that is his dad won't let him, because he says as dad he outranks Captain. So and I understand that moment and the whole fatherhood thing with Arthur and a pregnant Mara. So I appreciate that it's tied there, but still the voice for the AI seemed off.
Yeah, I get the point of it, like you say, the thematic link. It's just, I don't know, just it never really worked, did it? This whole Aqua Daddy.
It seems to be gone, because also we're probably starting new arcs soon, so I don't even know if Manta's going to be. I mean, maybe it will be. Maybe Manta's still going to factor in the subplots, but that could be him for a little while now. All right, Matt, what are you giving it?
I'm going to give this an 8. I like this issue.
Got it.
I'm just going to go with a straight 7. It's a solid action.
Yeah. I'll go with 7.5. I'll split the difference. So that is Aquaman 55. That'll take us on to Legion of Superheroes issue 2, written by Ryan Michael Bendis, art by Ryan Sook. Obviously, we started last issue. Still tons of characters. The chances of me knowing any names beyond a couple of people are pretty slim here.
The major 3, right?
Yeah, sure. Lightning Lad, Saturn Girl, and
right. And then Brainy, of Supergirl, right?
Yes.
Wildfire. He's the guy with the cool Power Ranger getup.
There's a point though about 2/3 of this issue where they're splitting into teams, and like I'll take this squad of these 4 people. I'll take this squad of this 4 people, and they mentioned all these names, and I'm like, wait, what?
Oh man, you Patreon people, let's give Pete some Legion to get him like.
There's so many names.
The Wade Kitson would help him a lot because that introduces people. That's all I'm saying.
So just this issue though is that they're dealing with an attack from the what was the name of the group? The aliens.
I gotta look it up.
Damn it. But they
starts with an H.
Yeah, they get attacked, and they're dealing with the fact that they're after Aquaman's trident, which activates. John's got it, Superboy's got it, and he's like in the middle of the fight. He's going away with it, and it essentially explodes with water. It's like a water explosion, and it contains after like the initial little blast, but they basically describe it as it was like an entire ocean was trying to get out of it. So something funny is going on here with Aquaman's trident.
So the group is called the Horaz.
The Horaz, yes. Yep. Mordru is obviously behind them or involved with them as well. They mentioned that a couple of times. I particularly enjoyed the scene where Rose goes to the president of the UP, and tries to sort of explain what's going on with Superboy and that. And the president is pissed that she was not informed of Superboy being brought here from the past. And Rose has to explain that to the others, but Rose kind of gives us some back talk. She's not exactly just regal about it. It's very attitude heavy.
I like it. It tells me that Rose has learned from Thorn over the millennia, right? They've been stuck together. So that because this is all Rose, right? It doesn't have the scratchy, but there's just basically telling her that basically telling her like, yeah, Superboy's there, but being that the Legion is kind of outside your jurisdiction, you can be upset all you want, but there's not much you can do.
And President's Daxamite for the record, just in case that may be important later. But Yeah, and she relays this back to everyone else. They're still deciding what to do with the trident. They've got it in kind of like a stasis orb for the time being. And they're splitting into teams. They're going to go check into things. One team's going to go to, Planet Gotham, which obviously John freaks out about. He's like, wait, Planet Gotham? Right. What? And
that's all he cares about.
Yeah.
Like, that's all he hears. And then while everyone else is doing other stuff, he's supposed to check like this, what do they keep calling it? The orientation presentation.
Yes.
And
well, he's left behind because he wants to go with the team to Planet Gotham, but he's told to stay behind and watch the orientation because Saturn Girl actually outright calls him out for forgetting her name because obviously she's reading his mind, which did actually make me feel a little bit okay. All right, John's kind of in the same boat as me. He has no idea who anyone is, and they're kind of like using that as a narrative device. I can get into that. So yeah, and then Ultra Boy factors in here a lot as well, talking about his father.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he's a general, and he doesn't like the idea of the Legion of Superheroes or really the UP. Like, he kind of just tolerates it, and that he's going to be really upset knowing that the Legion now has the Trident. So, but yeah, it was some nice character stuff with Ultra Boy about him not telling them who he was really. Like, his dad is this big to-do on his home planet of Rimbor. Because he was embarrassed by it.
He's ashamed from where he comes from, and the others are kind of like, no, you know what? You'd be surprised how many of us actually kind of relate to that. But the issue goes through all these various beats. So the big thing I think that most people are going to talk about is the fact that John at the end, when he's left alone, is like, well, there's Planet Gotham. I have to go get someone now. And then the last page is him picking up Damien in present day so he can take him to the future and show him Planet Gotham. So, I mean, it's a solid issue. It's funny because I still think this is like at the bottom of my Bendis pile right now. It's not necessarily hit a stride yet where it feels, and I know it's only issue 2, right? I get that before anyone says anything, but I feel like his Superman and his action and his Young Justice and Event Leviathan and Naomi especially, like all those like came out just firing, guns blazing, and it didn't feel like there was any time to sort of settle in. This one I feel like I mean again I enjoyed the Millennium issues more than these two, but this was still fine. Like there wasn't bad.
There's nothing actually wrong with it, but after reading Doomsday Clock and the stuff with the metaverse, I'm like my Legion's out there somewhere.
Well, that's actually there's a reference to a Doomsday Clock thing in here. Because when Superboy shows up, I think it's Rose who asks. She says, wait, as in John Kent, like Superman's son, or as in Superman when he's a young Superboy?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's immediately referencing the fact that that's back in continuity. So they did. I almost wonder, like, when they were just because obviously I don't know when this was written, but I almost wonder if, like, when it became clear when that final issue of Doomsday Clock was going to hit, that Bendis realised, it's going to be the same day as this Legion issue, and he made a point of putting this little wink to it.
Yeah.
So
just knowing that, and like I don't have a connection to this Legion, and their Earth's super weird. Like it's very sci-fi. Like again, it's fine. It's just not my favorite, and I have high expectations for a Legion book. So I've been asking for one for the last 3-4 years. So
yes,
but again, it's not bad. It's I like all the beats here, like when them splitting off to go to the different planets, and
I think right now, and especially for me, not really being as used to a lot of these characters, is that right now John is the only one I sort of feel as a character. Everyone else is just kind of there. I think what will really change this is if we start getting points where, like Saturn Girl will get an issue where we really just spend time with her and she'll have a little arc and we'll see what she's going through, and I'll start to care about the others as they maybe do that. Right now it's a list of names that don't really mean much to me, and it's just them shouting out things that they're mid-fighting or it's whatever, and it's fine so far, but like I am going to have to sort of form an attachment to the rest of these characters at some point, so but I mean it looks good, it flows well enough. I do think there's one of those like big dinner table pages, but maybe there was a bit too text heavy, where I sort of looked at the page and went, oh geez, that's a busy page.
Super Bendis.
But but it's fine. It's a solid, fine, good issue, as aware.
Yeah.
So what are you giving it?
Maybe it was 7.5.
Yeah, I'll go with a straight 7 on this one.
This book sounds like my worst nightmare.
Kind of. I mean,
it sounds like the worst parts of Bendis that I hate turned up to maximum.
Yeah, especially if you have no tie to the Legion, then you're a lot like Pete trying to piece things together while you're trying to deal with all the dialogue that's coming out. Because there was a couple times where I was reading this and I went, "What's going on Twitter?" Just to take a break for a second. So
it's always a good sign.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, so so that's Legion of Superheroes. That'll take us on to Shazam issue 9. And I actually didn't realize I was putting two Connor or not Connor books back to back, but
you dick.
Hey, we're flowing really quickly here. It's not,
get caught up, Connor, because although I still don't like where part of this went.
Yeah, I saw some spoilers.
A fun read.
Not intentionally, just headlines are shit. Let's be honest on the internet, and I had context for it because of what you guys were talking about last issue, and I went, "Ooh, okay." I'm looking forward to hearing you guys not be happy about that.
Yeah, well, it's not so much a not so happy. It's just I feel like Johns is trying to do too much.
Just for the record here, Geoff Johns writing with the art by Dale Eaglesham, Scott Kolins, and Marco Santucci. So we got 3 artists. I think that's worth
back up again.
Yeah, but these are broken up into the different worlds where they're going on. So it flows a lot better than some of the other issues have, where it kind of just felt like we're just trying to get this out.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
So the Wazunderlands, super weird still.
Well, yeah, this is the weird thing. Is this issue? Maybe this was hinted at before, but this issue made it very clear that this was Wizard of Oz mixed with Alice in Wonderland, to the point where the characters in it refer to the fact that Alice and Dorothy like combined the place themselves and are kind of like not the rulers, but like they're like, I don't know,
and like
weird bit of mythology going on here.
Think of literary places. I understand why Johns would pick Oz and Wonderland, because they're both these places where, kids, like children's fantasy. Yeah, right. And so these are places like the Funlands, right, that kids would want to go. You find out at the end that the reason that they got smashed together was an invasion by the Monsterlands, and it consumed one of them, so they, brought them there. But you still have the witches at play, and the Queen of Hearts, and it just feels like a mismatch. And
there's a lot happening here. I will say there was Wonderland stuff. Like, I was happy to see everyone back together again, and obviously I was happy that, because what was happening here is that obviously last issue ended with Billy's dad becoming like the 7th Shazam family member. And this issue starts with them fighting Black Adam. Mary's there as well, but Mary's powers start shorting out. After a couple of punches, she like just zaps and she's back to being Mary. But then when they're back in the Wonderlands after this, when they sort of retreat, not intentionally, might I add, this is kind of like against their will.
Old.
Yeah. They like Mary's back to being superhero again, and then she unmarifies or she unshazams, and like it's going back and forth, and it happens with the dad as well, and it's like, what's happening? And the wizard shows up with all the others that he's collected, so everyone's back together again, so that was nice to see. And the wizard explains, your heart's kind of torn between right now, so the powers are literally fluctuating between your dad and everyone else, because you're conflicted as to who your family really is, so you're going to have to choose. And Billy, stresses over this choice for like a minute. And to be fair, I did like that his dad said, "Hey, you shouldn't pick me. Like, I've not been here. I want to be in your life again, but you shouldn't pick me for this because I've not been here." And
also, I'm a grown man that just realized magic really exists. Maybe I'm not the best person for this.
But basically, Billy says, "Well, screw this. I get to pick who my family is, so I just pick everyone." So the final, we end with it's not the final page, but we end kind of that part with like everyone suited up, and the wizard's like, "It's impossible," and all I could think was, well, technically, I mean, everything says it's supposed to be 7, right? So, if he does just kind of accept in his heart that this is all his family, then I suppose why does this seem so impossible? Yeah. This feels quite natural to me.
I almost wish that the dad thing didn't come up like 2 issues ago. I wish it kind of started it off with it, or we got, remember when they did the backup in the first issue about the bunny? I almost wish there was backups about Billy's dad or something, just because now it just feels so fast. Like, Billy, you're not even sure if this really is your dad. Like, he tracked you down, and you're just sharing your power willy-nilly. So, but yeah, also at the end, Mr. Mind and Savannah sounds like they're going to recruit King Kid to have on their side for when they attack the Shazam family. So, but yeah, I almost feel like John's is doing too much. It's still a fun read. Like, I had a lot of fun reading it.
Yeah.
And I was ready to not like the addition of Billy's dad, but when he goes, no, I choose who my family is. And I really do like that message, that he can have both.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Like, I like that message, and I also don't think that he's going to be around for a while. I feel like this is a thing that will be done by the end of the arc, maybe, or maybe next arc it'll be kind of is when it all falls apart.
I almost felt this was like 2 issues with the stuff thrown into one, because the Black Adam and Sin's thing is kind of just thrown out.
Yeah, this is the thing. Black Adam doesn't really like Savannah or Mr. Mind, and he kind of intends on like beating them once he's like got all the power back, because he basically wants all the power back from Billy and that he's super powerful and he can go after the real villains stuff, as he wants to do.
Yeah, standard.
Yeah, so the end is basically just like, we're about to do this so that we can take over all the magic lands and all the realms, and we're going to, win, basically. Because it sounds like it's not really so much that they want to work with King Kid, they just want him to be functional right now as a distraction so that they can get away with what they're doing.
That's what I mean. They're kind of recruiting him into their side, but
I would say manipulating him almost, rather than so
because he just wants the power of Shazam for himself. He wants to be that 7th member.
And I wasn't super into the art. Like obviously different sections of different artists, but like there was definitely some that I wasn't feeling that much. Where faces felt a little bit iffy. I think when they were all waking up, for example, when they land in the Wazunderlands, I was feeling like it looked a bit off to me, which is a shame because this book started with good art, but then very very quickly they had to start having multiple artists.
Whoever they could get.
Yeah. So the art's been super inconsistent, which is a shame. But I mean, I think the issue again, like you say, it's enjoyable enough read. John's writing for me always flows really well, so it's one of those things. Just hopefully it can smooth out a little bit as we keep going, and just put more John's on more things, because John's should be on more things. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. All right, but yeah, okay issue. How are you giving it?
I'm gonna give this a 7. Like, it's perfectly fine. Not great.
Yeah, I'll go with a 6.5. Bit weaker one for me, this one. Do you know what the other problem is with the books on this half is that we clearly front loaded the first half with some of the bigger stuff, so they're at a little bit of a disadvantage.
It wasn't necessarily the things that we were most excited to read, although it happened to be in that way in a lot of it, but more just which are the high profile. We had the ending of Doomsday Clock, the ending of Batman, King's Run, new Suicide Squad.
Yeah, the ending of Batman. Hey,
we've got another ending of Batman coming up.
We made a bigger deal about that last week, or last episode, if it was the actual ending of Batman.
You know what I meant. But then we had also a new event book started in the last episode, so of course that went in there.
Yeah. So that is Shazam. And then that takes on to Jimmy Olsen number 6. So that of course is Matt Fraction and Steve Lieber on the art. So you guys can take this away.
It is of course still fantastic.
Yep. The story's starting to come together now, where you're starting to see the full picture.
Yeah, this one's jumping around in time quite a bit over things that we've seen in the book so far, and it's like little like snippets here or there with some other context.
Yeah, so I don't know if I brought it up last time on the last issue that came out, but we brought up Jix, the jewel thief. Yeah. Or if I just talked about this elsewhere. Like, what was that about? How come we haven't seen her since? Well, we get to see her here, and it looks like she's marrying some devil dude. Seems against her will, but then the robot that's performing the ceremony, because of course it's a Matt Fraction book, so things don't quite make sense. He's like, well, she can't because she's married, and then she ends up like not getting married, but being mad about Jimmy, right?
Because Jimmy was supposed to settle
annul
the
it.
divorce or annulment. Yeah,
Right.
as soon as they got back, and he obviously didn't.
Right. So now she's coming to get that, and then Jimmy ends up in jail for a night, and a guy basically like the prisoners don't want anything to do with him, not the prisoners, but the people like in the holding cell, because he's Superman's friend and he's untouchable. But some guy decides like, oh no one's untouchable to me, and he ends up coming at Jimmy with a shiv as he's getting out. But you see like heat vision
Coming in through the window.
Right. So yeah. So mind you, later in the issue, Superman says like he doesn't want to be involved in all this.
He was still looking out for him.
Well, and that's what gets me with the way that Faction's telling the story. It's so almost out of order.
Oh yeah, because this bit here in the prison is the night before the assassination happened.
Right. So it's after that point then that Superman. So we're having to put this together like Memento style.
It kind of
right?
is, yeah.
Right. And so you see all that, and then you find out that the assassin, which I thought was a fun page. The assassin is this guy, and I think his name is Guy, right?
He's Nathan Guy.
Nathan Guy, and he's like the top assassin. And you see him, and he's kind of being self-reflective of what it means to be a hitman, and like he kind of, but as he's having these thoughts, he still decides to shoot Jimmy, and then has second thoughts about it, shoots him a couple more times. But we all know this is the decoy that the professor gave him. And we also see Metamorpho in the apartment.
Yeah, again, because it is that scene. Just this is,
right,
from the different shooter's perspective.
I said Memento. This is more like Rashomon when you think about it, because it's different perspectives thus far.
Yeah.
Right? So
it reminds me a lot of like a spy movie, where there's all the double crossing, and it'll play out, and then it'll rewind and show you the double, the same events, but as the double cross, and it'll do that like 3 times in a movie.
And so we see that, and then he gets picked up by Tessmacher and in a Lex cab, where
of course.
Right, and Lex is basically like, hey man, you're operating here without my say so, like I'm the big boss in Metropolis, and basically he's gonna question him on who put up the hit on Jimmy, and the dude takes a cyanide capsule. And this is after we see him go to the museum and wonder about getting back together with his ex-wife, and all very funny Faction, like little moments to breathe.
Yep.
He takes that, and and Lex has to watch him die from the monitor, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah, and he's like, well, another great mystery.
Right, and so we see that Jimmy was in jail overnight, but the charges were dropped, but he doesn't understand why he was there. Well, we find out that Lex put him in there for his own safety, because no one can assassinate him.
He called in Jim Corrigan III,
right?
Which is not
the Spectre,
not the Spectre, just a different Jim. Yeah.
Yep. Which is a fun bit.
Yeah.
Who can ironically dish out punishments of the supernatural kind? Yeah, but not him. This is a different one.
Yeah. Who he still wears a green blazer though.
Yep, still a green blazer. He kind of looks like Chris McSallen too, or Christmas Allen.
Yeah,
the one that took over after Corrigan. That was a Rocha character from, I think it was Rocha Brubaker from Gotham Central.
Yeah, he was in Gotham Central.
Yeah. So, because it for Lex, he's like, well, wait, what did Jimmy do that someone's trying to kill him? And so now you have Lex Luthor putting together on the case. You have Lois putting it together. You got Jimmy, who's completely oblivious, really to anything that's going on. And then at the end, Batman ends up on the case. So
yeah, this book is so funny though, because it makes a point of telling you Jimmy's full name a few times in the book, which has a great payoff at the very end. Yeah, James Bartholomew Jimmy Olsen.
Right.
It makes a point of saying that like 3 or 4 times over the course of the book.
And we get to Superman and the Doctor that came out of the Ultra Zone. Or whatever it was called.
Ultra Space, I think. And
Ultra Space
is with Lois as well, and they're in the fortress.
Yep. And he's doing the, Kryptonian science with the crystals and stuff. And he basically tries to bring up that time isn't a flat circle. It's a round square. And he's seeing pieces when he was there of Jimmy's life, right, and the history and what has been going on, and
it looks
almost
like
makes
we're
it
seeing
sound
some
like
of the old timey Olsen stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, almost like Jimmy's the key to the ultra space, especially what's going on now.
It does, and then we see a glimpse of what looks to be Jimmy being carried by the robots, and it looks like the robot that was marrying the Jix and the other. So who knows?
And he's having a hard time managing, but Lois is writing all this down, and Superman keeps doing the fingers in his ears, going, "I don't want to know, la 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 la."
Yeah, and Lois writes down, just keep it away from all X-ray eyes over there.
Yep, and so as I said, you have Lois and everybody on the case, and then we get back to Jimmy and his sister, which I'm going to say this is present time, right? This is the most forward part of the story, because
I think so.
He's been assassinated. He's Jimmy or Timmy Olsen now. Wynn tracked down his sister Janie Olsen in Gotham,
and he is walking the cat.
Walking Dexter. When they basically get accosted by a bunch of people, and Dexter springs into action, which is pretty cool.
And does what Dexter does best.
Right, throws up the red, and they end up going back to Timmy Olsen's apartment, where there's more people waiting, and Timmy/Jimmy just takes a beating. And he gets in there, the lights turn on, and Batman's there.
Yeah.
And he's there to save him, and Jimmy's all beat up, and there's some fun dialogue there with him not being able to talk with a swollen mouth. Yeah. And Batman looks over, and he sees Janie there. There's a real fun thing about, well, not necessarily they're after your brother. Your plays do rub people in Gotham the wrong way with how socially conscious they are, which I thought that was a pretty fun moment of Bruce almost being self-aware of it.
He's a big fan of theater, I'm sure.
Yeah. Right. And he looks over, and by Jimmy's sister's the Batmobile wheel. And he was like, is that my tire? Never mind. And
he's like, no, Joe, what? I'm not doing this.
No. And then Jimmy even calls him the world's suckiest detective, which I thought was pretty funny through the garbled language. And he puts him with Alfred. He's like, they're going to keep you safe. We're going to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, because it's like, Joe, what? This is too big for even me right now in Gotham, because this is bigger than Gotham. Because Lex isn't the one trying to kill you. Lex is protecting you, and so this is beyond me. So someone else will have to look into this. And he goes, now, by the way, I had your name legally changed to Jimothy, like Jimphony. Sorry, like Symphony, but it starts with Jim. Batman always wins, Jimphony. Remember that.
Jimphony.
I don't know. Yeah. The Batman always wins cracked Phil so much.
Yes, it does. Well, it's almost like him being like Mount Fraction being,
because I'm Batman.
Like
being
we
really
brought that
aware
up on the last one about because Batman and whatnot, and more on that in last night. But but yeah, it's a whole lot of fun. Lieber's art's really good because it's got that cartooniness to it. Like, when Dexter's throwing up on people, it's not like this intense thing. It just looks like a cat throwing up red, and whatnot.
It doesn't look like it's actually doing much damage in this art.
No.
In a good way, because it suits the tone of the book.
And so, and then again, all the stuff with the fun panels and everything, is summed up again. Like, I'm wondering how this is going to read in trade, just because month to month, it's nice to have these little reminders. But when you have it, and it's constantly reminding you, I'm wondering if that's actually going to work out better, because you'll be able to piece it together.
That's true. I think this book works spectacularly well monthly, because it is, these bite-sized adventures. It's all these vignettes kind of sprung, sewn together, and then you have the narrative shifting in time quite seamlessly.
I wouldn't mind this getting the animated series treatment. Like, there's that Harley one that's on right now that I haven't watched, but I could see this style being okay for Jimmy.
Yeah.
Right. So, but yeah, what you rating it, Connor?
I'm gonna go with an 8.5. This is such a blast.
God, I hate when I line up with you, but yeah, 8.5. It's a whole lot of fun.
Well, that'll take us on then to Metal Men issue 3. This is obviously Dan Didio with art by Shane Davis, and we ended last issue with the giant manta ray,
the devil ray
flying towards the base. And the Nth Metal Man, this issue is like, hey, you need to let me out because I'm the only one who can save you. I'm the only one who can solve this and beat this thing.
Yeah. And Magnus like, nah, it's fine. My Metal Men, they got this.
Yeah, and they don't. They very much don't.
They really don't.
Yeah. This is the one thing I don't like about what Didio's doing is he's making the Metal Men look so terrible. Like, they are a superhero team, you know? Like, and I get it. I get what the point of the story is going to be. But yeah, I don't know. I don't like them. I don't like him taking the bite almost.
This kind of feels like an early days Metal Men story where they're not actually fully there yet. And maybe that's true. I don't know. There's nothing that lines us up with continuity, is there?
Well, there's not really any continuity except that in the first issue we find out that it's all been a lie, that they're not actually sentient, right? That they're all
that's true.
Just different.
So there has to have been some time with them. Right,
and then he even brings up that they fought something like this before, you know, in their early adventures.
Yeah, and they said they barely won, but it's a more experienced team now, and they'll do like. Although he neglects to think about the fact that they're a team member down when he says this.
Right.
But so
it's only gold, so you know.
Well, yeah, but he's the leader. He's he's the gold standard. But it seems to me it's making Will Magnus seem inept. When that's, not typically...
I mean, I think what I like about this book is someone who's not read a lot of standalone Metal Men stuff, right? I've seen them pop up in things like 52 and popped up in, whatever else. Is I kind of like it's really making me like just the banter between them. And their bumbling buffoonery, as it were, that they seem to kind of have here is working for me. It's separating it from other things I'm reading. But yeah, Magnus is obviously not willing to give in, so even after his Metal Men are defeated, he's got a backup plan. He's got a plan B. Magnus Opus.
Yeah?
Which may be
what's that mean?
Well, I mean, you're familiar with Magnum Opus, right?
No, I know, but I mean, what's that mean for him? Like,
oh God!
what's his Magnus Opus?
I don't know. The Earth is basically like crying from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like inside the body of a giant robot. I'd maybe guess.
No, Pete, that's not what I'm saying.
You're asking what it is in the book.
Yeah. So no, the base.
Oh no! I know what you're getting at. I'm saying his actual Magnum Opus. If I've got the ego of Dr. Magnus, I feel like it's to put an entire robot around the entire planet. This building turned into a robot is just a stepping stone, and the trajectory of Will Magnus is what I'm saying.
I did get Pacific Rim vibes from it. I will say that.
I just love the visual. I think what I liked about this is that it still looked like a building in the middle. It just happened to have arms and legs and a head.
It didn't transform, is what you mean.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and I think someone's going to call this out, right? So I'm going to bring this up because I said I hated the Holojustice turn into a ship a few issues ago in Justice League, and here's where this is different, right? It's the tone of the book in the first place. This in Metal Men feels on point. It feels like, yes, of course it was going this way. This feels natural to the events and the tone of the story. Justice League is meant to be the serious, ongoing crisis, central DC comic story. And it sort of bugged me in that. Here, I had a smile on my face as this silly building robot was, kaijuing around with this manta.
It is very silly.
Yeah,
it is
super silly. That's all. I mean, this whole mini feels very Silver Age, which is funny because Dan Didio was determined to kill the past every chance he gets.
He has a soft spot for Metal Men, though, doesn't he? For whatever reason. He
does. OMAC and Metal Men, those are his two bugaboos.
Because Didio did the Metal Men story in Wednesday Comics, right?
Yep.
Yeah, which was also a lot of fun.
So, but yeah, and like people saying, the banter between them, Lead ends up trying to create a shield while Iron gets knocked into the water. Tin tries to save Iron, but he's not strong enough.
Iron rusts real fast.
Yeah. It starts off feeling kind of like a scene from like an Independence Day or something like, because they all come in as gliders, as their planes. It feels like they're all coming in as a squad. Again, of course, very quickly that all falls apart. Eventually, Magnus has to just kind of agree and let Nth Metal Man out of the cell, the containment cell, and he goes and wraps himself around this
kind of does
Manta.
what Platinum was trying to do, but better.
Yeah, but succeeds.
Which I guess, from what it's understood, is that's how they defeated it the first time. So. That's what he does, but it's also too that since the Nth metal is a psychic thing, I still don't trust it, right? Because it's a psychic metal, and I feel like it's just playing into Will's ego.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, hell, I mean, obviously we mentioned this last issue, but it's taken the appearance of Will. It's taken his appearance. I mean, obviously it looks metally, but it's his shape.
Right.
So all issue as well, because when they bring up "you killed Gold, we can't trust you," he's like, well, that thing that I pulled out this thing that gave it this the resemblance of life. I can do better than that. And the issue ends, of course, with Gold sort of popping up and saying, I've never felt more alive. So we might actually get into the idea that Gold might actually be a sentient life form now, properly, and Will Magnus is going to be absolutely livid because he's not been able to pull it off, and Nth Metal Man's just done it as if it's nothing.
Well, and being that Nth Metal's emotionally charged, right, or psychically charged, as they say, I'm wondering if this leads to the responsometers being built out of Nth Metal.
That would make sense.
I could see that, because it's worth mentioning, but even before this, like, Will kind of like acknowledges that Nth Metal Man must be truly sentient, because the motivations he has for doing anything are all far more advanced than anything that his Metal Man can do. So, this is a fun, enjoyable read, very quick read as well. I kind of flew through this.
Yeah, there's not much to it, right? Like 90% of it is action.
Yeah, it's action with one-liners, though, which can get tiring, but
then the odd little bit of Magnus and Nth Metal Man talking a little bit. Yeah,
and then a building became a robot and fought a flying manta. It was a thing.
Yeah, double Ray.
I thought it was solid. So what are you giving it, Matt?
I'll give this a 7 as well.
Cara?
Yeah, 7's perfectly for me.
Yeah, I think 7. That sums it up. Solid, fun 7. So that was Metal Man. That'll take us on to Harleen issue 3. So we're getting to some of the meatier stuff in this batch. Obviously,
now we can start dishing out the higher scores, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So Steven Sejic. I just remembered there. We're allowed to call him Steven now. So he gave us permission, personally. Wrote us a note. So last issue kind of ended with the first sort of intimate moment between Harley and the Joker in one of their private meetings, the camera covered, and that becomes kind of a running thing in this issue where she keeps doing that. She keeps having the camera covered or turned off, and these private sessions, which, and he gets unrestrained, and at first it's just they're sitting talking when he's unrestrained, and there may be some hugging, some hand holding, and it kind of escalates, and you really feel that she's pushing the envelope every single time she goes back, and obviously it gets to the point eventually where she properly dolls herself up, goes in, and they straight up have sex, and the interrogation, well, not interrogation, it's Arkham says it. And
as she's doing this, I'm going, and I know where this is going, right?
Interview,
right? Like we all know this is her becoming Harley Quinn, but I'm reading it and I'm going, no, stop. What are you doing?
Do you know what? In that regard, because I was thinking about this, it reminds me of Better Call Saul. In that, you're watching it. You know how this ends. You know it's doomed, but you're still going, please just turn out differently this time.
Yeah.
I think what it does really well is it never tries to convince us, the reader, that Joker really kind of loves her, or at least, I mean, maybe he does, but it never goes down that path. It focuses it way more on her, like, growing obsession, and we can see it's unhealthy, and she even kind of acknowledges that it's probably unhealthy, but she can't see around her feelings. She can't feel anything else.
No, and that's her problem, as she brings up throughout everything, right? Is this happened in college with her professor? Like, she does things that she's not supposed to, and she can't stop herself. So even though she knows she's not supposed to, because she has that moment where she looks herself in the mirror and go, are you really putting on makeup for this? And then she goes through with it, so yeah, that's what makes it almost a tragedy, is she knows it's wrong, but she gets to a point where she just doesn't care.
Yeah.
And because of Gotham, it's like Gotham turned her into this because she started to care too much. And the key to Gotham is you don't care at all, which we know is not true, right? Like,
yeah, but that's what the book's kind of
Gordon
been.
Yeah, with Gordon and Batman, from another point of view, that's not true. But with her and her trying to do good, and then we'll get to the Two-Face stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think it was really smart, actually. That whole stuff with the college professor is a really nice little touch that just kind of sets up the idea that she already has a thing for being attracted to men. She's really not supposed to. So obviously, okay, it's a faux pas to like want the professor who's the older man, right? What's even more extreme than that? Because the idea of like
patient.
Any kind of like sexual fetish or thing that gets more and more extreme, typically the way it happens for a lot of like deviants, if you will, is that it escalates, right? It starts off with just little risky things, but isn't necessarily that bad. But then they keep chasing the high, and eventually the stuff they're getting away with isn't enough anymore, so they keep chasing bigger and more extremes. It kind of like ties into that. So Harley, yes, not only her patient, but a patient who is a notorious mass murderer and a complete psychopath. Right. It's someone who is unredeemable.
Pulled a gun on her in the first issue.
Yeah.
Right.
And by the end of this issue, as we were told in the first one, she's a murderer right alongside him.
Right.
Yeah.
And that tragedy too. That hit hard. Like, you kind of get to that point with what happens early in the book with that character, and then it didn't go down as I expected it to.
It did a good job over the 3 issues of just kind of establishing the security guard as someone who she talks to here or there, and then this issue obviously had
someone that, like, you never get the feeling like he's attracted to her. He doesn't want her to fall into that pit that is Gotham, right?
Yeah, they're not even like friends. They're just, they're work colleagues. They see each other on a very regular basis, so they're friendly with each other, and you get that. It feels, realistic.
But there's enough small talk, there's enough advice from him, and obviously the thing in this issue is that he actually comes in to check that she's okay, which obviously for her in the moment is a pain, because she has to quickly fasten the Joker back up because they're being too flirty. But he's doing it out of concern. Under any normal circumstances, this is a completely valid and welcome thing to happen. But of course, she's trying to sneak all these, as she calls it, they're not really interview sessions, they're dates. That's what they became in her mind by the time things went bad. And of course, Two-Face kind of throws the wrench in everything, because Two-Face, I actually kind of liked how this book subtly kind of explained how he gets his henchmen. Like the henchmen are all these like disgruntled cops who want his version of justice.
So not only is this my favorite version of Harley, Sejic's given me my favorite version of Two-Face, who is a character I already love. But what he does here with the psychosis that's created from the attack, and Gotham created him, just like Gotham created Batman. And yeah, it's so good.
This really interesting thing, because coming into the book, obviously we knew we were getting the Harley story, but mentioning Two-Face early on was kind of just a bit of a throwaway line at first, and then it's like, oh no, it's actually not as much a Two-Face story as Harley, of course, but it's got a significant portion dedicated to Harley.
Well, he's almost the antagonist.
I mean, he's there for 2 reasons. He's there because thematically the whole idea of 2 personalities, right?
The duality, of course.
So he's there, he's there thematically, but he's also there just as a plot device, because he's the thing that unleashes the riot in this issue, which is going to be a big deal.
Oh, sure, but I mean, if you just wanted to do a plot device, it would be easy to do anything. The fact that you do it with, we're doing it with Two-Face, we're making it feel relevant, give it the appropriate time to build, so it's not just the antagonistic thing that's just there.
It's also the idea, of course, that he's developing to this point at the same time as Harley. This is him. This is the part where he properly becomes Two-Face. He already looks like Two-Face. He's hearing the voice, but this is the first time, because as we hear in this, or we see in this issue, they still refer to him as the DA. They're still talking about him as if he's still going to be active in duty soon. Like he's not like a lost cause. And this attack on Arkham is that this is him. He's a villain now, and this is where the public are going to stop seeing him as the DA. They're going to start seeing him as this villainous Two-Face.
Right, and his whole when the executioners come to him, they're like, no, we thought you were onto something as the prosecutor. Let's throw all these guys, but it doesn't go far enough. And then Harvey puts it together. He's like, well, yeah. The death penalty is a joke in this town. We need to make them remember why it should be a thing. But is it going to be Blackgate that they go release everybody? or Arkham, and he
Oh,
flips
by the
the
way,
coin.
I love that page turn because he says he pulls out the coin and he's like heads. So which place are we going to liberate? Essentially, is it going to heads, Blackgate, or tails? And then he just turned the page and it's just a caption saying Arkham Asylum because we're going to Arkham. I love that transition. It was just a nice touch.
So good. And then just too, what Harvey represents in that there's black and white, and what Harleen, she's about these shades of gray, right? Her whole reason of going to Arkham is the empathy, right, in a war zone. That the longer you're there, the more like you have to disassociate yourself from the people because they're threats. And with Harvey, he can never do that now, right? Like
also,
it's Irritsby.
This book, I had no reason to think about it, but this book just kind of like subtly showed me that Harvey and Harley are only one letter apart. Because when she wrote their names out like side by like on top of each other, I was like, oh shit, they're practically the same name, just with one letter different.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point that Harley makes, right? Is we're basically the same.
Yeah, and then of course she rubs out a lot of it, and it just leaves "haha" as the starting of the two words, and I was like, oh, okay, nice touch. And she's obviously losing it at that point because. And what I love about this is she's got this thing going with Joker where she's basically seeing him on a regular basis. And I love how, like, after she has sex with him, it was like later on that night, like she's in bed and she was just like euphoric. She's just like thinking about how happy she is. It really sells like how in the deep end she's went with these feelings.
Right.
But Two-Face throws this wrench in it because this riot means that Joker's no longer in his cage and like her pet anymore. Like now he's going to be faced with all these things, and he kind of cracks a joke as he's like leaving his cell. He's like, oh well, Harley, we tried it, and she's not even around. He's just cracking a joke essentially. But she runs in there, Gordon's there, Batman's fighting Bane. We hear Batgirl and Robin are both like taking on trying to save hostages that Mr. Freeze has got. I like this is just a subtle thing, but I loved how what there's like random chatter from like the emergency services, and someone's using like a fire hose to try and do something, and someone says, "No, stop that! Freeze is in there.
Stop.
That'll cause chaos." But nice little touch. But like it's like she has to go in there, and we get this kind of like confrontation where Two-Face is there. We get the security guards there, and Harley ends up shooting the security guard. And we get all these
Joker, as she sees it.
Yeah, and we get all these. It's a great 2-page layout of all these like moments from the previous book of this guy's life and talking about his wife and kids and all these little moments, and it really does a good job of setting up this guy who's obviously just here destined to be the guy who gets killed to like show that she's properly flipped, and this is the point of no return. I think what's interesting to me, what I'm surprised about, is that the book. Oh, by the way, I loved all the jokes. Just before I move on, I forget this. I loved all the jokes that all the little lines from Joker about because he beats the shit out of Two-Face. He doesn't kill him, but he beats him like a brick. And when someone else sees him, he says, "Oh, I can't tell if that's Harvey Dent. He's all
His
mangled."
face is mangled.
And Joker goes like, "Oh, I did half that."
I'm trying to even him out.
All those little digs about Two-Face really made me laugh. But I was surprised because I think the narration for me at the start of the book, it sounded like it was Harley narrating from past the point of where she's, because obviously in a lot of other books in like present day DC, she's become more of an anti-hero and she's kind of post-Joker. And it almost felt the narration for a large part was coming from that point of view, and it still feels like it is. It's just, but it never. When it jumped ahead like 4 years later at the end, I kind of expected it to get to the point where she is sitting there telling the story or in some way. And it isn't. This is just her and Phil Harley in the suit.
I actually thought it was interesting at the end because it's her saying, even though that this is, like it is now, that even the darkest night must end, right? And it's like she's been kind of self-aware throughout all of this. She hasn't gone completely insane in the same way that a lot of the other criminals have. She has had this awareness of what she's been doing and knowing what she was doing was wrong, unlike some of the others.
Right, because she's not actually like them, right? She's still an outsider amongst them.
Yeah.
And that's why she hits it off with Ivy, right? Because Ivy's kind of the same way, that she's in there, she treats her with compassion, and she goes back. She goes, hey, as she starts having breakthroughs, she goes, oh, I know that your condition, you say you need sunlight, so she gives her a room with a window.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's also why there's a justifiable kind of like, just seed in our minds that she can be redeemed, that one day she can come back.
Yeah, that's kind of where this ends, is she knows that at some point this Harley Quinn is gone, and Harleen will take back over, so to speak.
Hey, I honestly, I think there's room for a sequel here of telling that story of the other end of this, of the when Harley becomes Harleen again. You know,
I mean, we could get it.
Yeah,
who knows?
It'd call it Harley. Call it Harley issue 1, 2, 3.
Right, and I'm there for that. For whatever Sejic does with DC.
I think they'd probably call it Harleen and with a subtitle.
Probably
the return. Yeah. Not the fantabulous emancipation though.
I feel like you'd make some nice. Again, you'd do some parallels with Two-Face. You know, the other side of the coin.
Right.
You can do some stuff in that book.
Yeah,
assuming that Two-Face is still around in that book. Although I feel like he should be if they do a sequel, just because.
I feel like we need to jump forward and see what happened after, because everybody gets out, right? Like, you know, because we get that awesome page with Ivy as she gets regrown. Yeah. With the fertilizer
phenomenal and
Joker just casually saying, "Hey, these enforcers were Two-Face. Kill them, Croc." Right. Croc just like, "Yeah, with pleasure."
and you just see them ripping one in half.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
And it gets kind of brutal too. Like you see the chunks taken out of people.
Yeah.
By Croc and whatnot. Harley comes across and.
It's Black Label, so it's likely to be the R-rated horror version of this. Yeah.
And you also get Joker saying, you know, telling those security guards, hey, you got a choice to go down there. Just know, though, Zaz is doing his thing. So make the right decision. So, yeah.
And, of course, this is a Sejic book, so it is very sexy, is I think, the appropriate word.
Yeah, there's a lot of sexiness throughout, which is just kind of par for the course with
It is, but it kind of makes, given that this is about, you know, how falling in love with Joker, it works.
Oh no,
That's the thing. It never feels gratuitous though. Everything's done.
It fits the themes of the story. It feels like the story. It feels like the story justifies the feeling that it has. It feels like the feeling of her kind of like becoming more sexualized as the story goes on, because she's feeling more and more sick. Because she mentions multiple times that she's not even worn makeup since college. That's a part of her life she's been kind of shut off from. And she kind of becomes more sexual as the story goes on. That makes a lot of sense. And it makes a lot of sense to show that. The argument, I suppose, against it would be that Sejic basically draws everyone sexy from the get-go. Because
it's kind of his thing.
Yeah. But
he's very good at it.
I mean, even Two-Face, you know, you look at the one side of his face, you're like, that's a good dude. But I like he doesn't shy away from it, but it also never feels pervy. You know what I mean? Like all the angles are there.
Yeah,
and,
I could see. I could see a sequel to this happening. It's worth mentioning as well the scene with Batman towards the end, where we actually just, for the first time in the book, just cut to like Batman in the cave talking to Alfred, which is, you know, obviously not been this book's thing, but it's basically just this little analysis of like to confirm that Joker was kind of playing her the entire time. Like Joker was using her to get out, and this love isn't real and never was, which is also why I think a sequel is very possible, because
it also Alfred also points out that, you know, that his was also fairly genuine on his part as well. So it's not like he, you know.
Oh sure, I mean as best as he can tell, but like I think the fact that Harley never acknowledges that she was being used and never realizes it, to me says we need a sequel. She has to go through that realization. She has to understand that.
Well, and that's why, you know, I like Murphy's and his with his Harley in White Knight. You know, that whole realization that Joker was so far gone, he never really put together. She left. He just found another one to take her place. You know, so I kind of like that too. But I do feel not necessarily that it was a love, but Joker did enjoy those sessions as well, as much as a sociopath can, right? That has no feeling.
Oh yeah, I mean, no, I'm not saying he didn't enjoy them, or even that he didn't have some kind of feeling, but just that he set out from the start to use Harley to get out, and that was the purpose behind the whole thing.
But I think along the course he developed something, because otherwise, you know, here at the end, he can just leave her.
Right? No, I can't. I'm not disputing any of this, but I'm saying the reason why I made the sequel is that Harley needs to learn this. Harley needs to realize this.
Well, and that's where we are now in comics, right? That's what the whole Poison Ivy and
general,
Harley mini from Hauser is. So,
in the last few years in general.
Right. So, but yeah, no, this is fantastic.
Or even the new movies kind of doing that. Of course.
Yeah.
I kind of want the sequel to this because I want this version of it. I want this version of Harley, and I want Sejic to tell that story, because this is the one that I want to see happen.
I'm just so impressed with Sejic as a writer, because obviously we knew he could draw the shit out of whatever he wanted, because, you know, that's his thing. But we didn't. I don't think any of us had experienced him as a writer beforehand, and
No.
kind of knew he could actually deliver on the substance to back up all the nice, all the pretty pictures essentially, right?
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know how much lead time he had on this because these came out. I mean, obviously it was a delay to this issue, but for how many pages each of these books were, it was still pretty quick.
It was only delayed by like 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, even at bi-monthly though, like this was more than a month's worth of usual comic art.
Well, we've got October, right?
Even if you half the issues, like half of one of these books is still like probably double of what a regular comic book issue is. So like it started. It was like
it's October. Yeah, it's been monthly.
October, November, December.
Yeah. So
I mean, a little bit off. It's not the same shipping because I remember I got my brother the first issue before he went back to Hawaii. So I think he left here the second week in October.
Yeah, but he must have had serious lead time on this though, because that was.
Oh, he did. Well, remember we were trying to figure out why he was leaving Odyssey because he was on there for the first couple issues, and this was probably it, right? Like,
well, I'm not at the time. He just said he wanted to do create her own stuff. That was the thing at the time.
At the time he was focusing on his Sunstone link.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, I don't expect it to be announced too soon if he wants to like have it all basically ready to go again, so that it can be monthly when the sequel hits. It's one of those things
where they can kind of announce it whenever they want. Yes, we are doing a sequel. We just won't solicit it yet.
They could do that, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if we hear nothing for a year and then we get an announcement out of nowhere.
Yeah, it'll be a nice Comic-Con announcement at some point, whichever con they want to just throw that in there. They'll have it ready in the back pocket.
It's entirely possible there won't be a sequel, but I think we're all set ourselves up for one because A, we want one, but B, as I actually think the story threads are there to do it, because I feel like this feels like a complete story in the chapter it's telling, but it does feel like a chapter rather than the complete journey.
It feels like
I'm just saying,
Matt,
I think as a Harley Quinn origin, which is what we were always promised, it absolutely delivers on that in its entirety. There's just more to tell with Harley, or even this version of Harley.
Yeah. So, no, very, very, very good. Very dense read, and never has reading like 80 pages been so easy.
That's what I'm gonna say. There's other books where I felt every page. This one, not so much.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong though. Like I was curious where I was at one point, and I clicked on the thing, and I was only a third of the way through it, and I was like, "Damn!" Like I've been reading.
Yeah, it's
I
like,
did the same way.
Like
I still have to go.
60-ish pages of story, which is still a lot.
Yeah.
Like,
but
it's still, compared to the usual 20, it's still triple a standard comic. But I think it reads faster than 3 comics.
Yeah, it'll make a nice big deluxe hardcover or whatever.
This is gonna look gorgeous. Like an absolute or something.
Yeah.
Oh.
All I know is I've been spoiled now because Sejic's drawn Starfire and Ivy, so like
it can only go downhill from here.
Right. So.
And even the little snippets of him like doing like Batman or other Gotham characters makes me think that hey, just even if he doesn't want to do Harley next, do whatever he wants in the Gotham world.
I think it was Freeze. You just saw the glow in the red eyes in the like the ice smoke.
Yeah.
That looked great.
All right, what are you rating him at?
That was a 10.
Connor?
Yeah, I'm done with Matt. This it's another 10 for me.
Yeah, it's a 10. All right.
Wait, hang on. Can I just? I know this is on 2 separate errors. Can we just acknowledge that this week had 2 triple 10s?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that happens. Okay.
No, that has never happened before. I don't think.
Well, it's happened now. It's done. All right. That's where we are. Which will lead us on to Batman Last Night on Earth, issue 3, Scott Snyder writing, Greg Capullo on art. I suspect, well, it's going to get a triple 10 because I didn't read it, but I suspect it will not be getting a double 10 either. So, take it away.
No. So, Pete, when you read the first issue,
I didn't.
And we're like, I thought you did. I thought you read parts of it.
He didn't even touch it.
Yeah, I was out.
Gosh.
I was out.
Well,
All-Star Batman and what did they do together before this?
Metal was the last thing they did, I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess it wasn't a Batman thing.
So
That was out.
Basically, it goes exactly where you think it goes, and I was very disappointed in that. That up to this point, it was a real fun what if future, and then with that ties up what Snyder and Capullo had done back in New 52. I never did like that it was reliant on the Batman machine, because I hated that thing with every ounce of my being. But yeah, the first 2 issues were a lot of fun. You had what's his Bane and Scarecrow going about being all creepy. You had that fun Superman.
Joker head telling
the Joker
jokes
head
constantly.
And whatnot. And then this just goes like, I feel like this could have been 4 issues and not 3, and it could have been expanded upon. But then you're giving Snyder more words, and that's a problem.
See, I think this is easily the weakest of the 3 issues.
Yeah.
However, I think part of its problem is that it's actually a very kind of self-contained issue. Like there's a couple of references to things in the first 2 issues, but for the most part, this issue
feels
sets
like
you up as a new thing.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's part of the other 2.
It doesn't.
Like,
and I think the issue gets better as it goes on. Like I like the ending for the most part. I like where it goes, but just the start, like it feels like it just slows down so much compared to where we were. That it just loses all that momentum. It feels like an issue 1 again of, okay, and this is the status quo, and this is the scenario.
And so, like, they reveal who Omega is, and it's like the most unfulfilling, reveal.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's so it's Bruce. Bruce never died. That was all a lie. He got ripped apart by the people that embraced Doom, and that clicked something in his head that he needed total control, and that he was going to take over. And so he takes over Gotham, and then the own Bat family ended up becoming owls because of what
he corrupted the Bat symbol, essentially.
Right. Which was pretty cool. It made me think about Metal. You remember the different clans?
Yeah.
It made me think, like, are we ever going to get the rest of that? Or,
I mean, we might. There's still probably a Snyder crisis to come.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting, though, in the sense that, the Bat was always in that mythology. Yeah. That's the bad thing, and Batman kind of co-opted that for justice instead of doom, so to speak.
Right.
And this here, it's kind of reverted back to its natural position.
And then the owl was the Hawk Clan represented, right? Like, and here it comes out because you got Nightwing still running around. You find out that Damian fell. He was one of the first to fall to Omega, which that kind of checks out, right? Like,
yeah.
Oh no, he fell. Did he fall with Batman? I can't remember.
Fell with Batman on the first day. It said, yeah. So
it
wasn't Bruce that took him out. That was just another thing that Bruce lost.
Right, but see, that doesn't check out with me because it's Damian, right? Like,
sure.
And then so Omega pops up, and they all kind of playing coy on who it is to this new Bruce, but you have Barbara there with their child. Is it ever? It's just Bryce.
It's just Bryce. I think
it's pretty
the
asexual
implication
name.
is that it's
a daughter, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Not trying to assume anything, but shaved head, resist tattoo, pretty asexual there. But Barbara and Dick have this child together. That's the next generation, which I thought that was a pretty cool touch of it. And Gordon's gone blind, which he says is kind of good. Now he doesn't have to see what's become of the city and whatnot. But it just basically becomes a showdown between this new Bruce and Omega saying that, this is what this world deserves, and that you were supposed to take over for me because you don't have the scars that I do, and you could be fresh, but you've been corrupted by everything. And Joker still wanting to be Robin.
So he builds himself like a mecha Robin suit and puts his fishbowl on the top.
And you find out that he figured this out, how to fight Omega back, but Omega broke him so bad that he had to build this exoskeleton kind of mech suit that he ended up dying
just to
in.
Move, yeah.
Yeah, and he sacrificed himself to lead the first strike. So the Joker head ends up going in there, like in Futurama, when Nixon's walking around.
Pretty much. Honestly, I know there's some people who don't like this, who hate the idea of Joker being Robin, and I get that. But in this book, this Joker kind of works.
Well, you find out that Alfred, because he blamed Joker for this that Omega had basically, just offed him. He was the first thing he went after.
Yeah.
And that he had hung his head out on a post, and that Alfred was the one that saved it by putting it in the jar.
I assume because it was like, Joker represented the whole,
right,
the entirety of Bruce not killing someone, right? Because that was the one who would always push him the closest. So I think Alfred thought by saving that, maybe he could still save Bruce.
Yeah. So, at the end, the new Bruce ends up taking over, and they take back Gotham from Omega, who still has dark side powers, which I still don't quite get, but whatever.
Yeah, he's got like Metron's chair and stuff like that.
So,
but
here's
the thing I like, though, in terms of with the machine coming into play, which I know Matt, and we've all kind of been on record as kind of not liking the machine. Okay. In this story, let's just kind of it's there. I like the idea of the fact that Bruce thinks that now I've got a new one, fresh body, great, but the idea of no, it just made an actual Batman, and and the idea of it's not just if Bruce goes past his physical peak that there needs to be a new Bruce. It's if he gets broke, whenever if he goes on too long, eventually something will go wrong and he'll snap and he'll stop being Bruce. I mean, even going back to Dark Knight Returns.
No, and I get that.
Bit of a dickbag, and this is the idea of he'll always be young and idealistic.
Yeah, he is, but he never loses his point of view. And here, I hate evil Batman. I hate evil Batman more than I hate evil Superman as a trope, because this is why I hate Batman Who Laughs. Is he's unbeatable unless Batman. He comes up against Batman. No one else is able to do it. Not the Bat family. It's got to be a new, fresh Batman. I know Snyder says he hates the Bat God, but he's written the Bat God far too often.
He has. He absolutely
for me to believe that. So, I do think he thinks it's a boring story thing, and here it's kind of earned, but I still don't like it. It comes down to taste, and I got bored about 2/3 of the way through this, and I was like, I know exactly where this is going. Mm-hmm. It's not gonna surprise me. So
honestly, for me, the very worst part of this issue is the very start, and I was really worried in those first few pages because the first few pages are quote unquote present day.
Right.
I don't know if it actually has an actual time on it, but it's it's young Bruce, original Bruce with young Gordon, and they're replacing the lamp on the bat signal. And
that's right.
There's a suggestion that Joe Chill had a son,
right?
And we've never heard about this before because all the records were removed. He had a different name, and the son died, and he died in the operating table, because the doctor was drunk, and it went wrong, and it said the doctor listed was Thomas Wayne, and it's this implication that Joe Chill's actions that night were actually revenge, not just this random. And I hate any time they do that. It's just a random shooting. Honestly, if you had it my way, I wouldn't even know it was called Joe Chill. We'd never find out. There'd be no one. It'd just be random person. There would be the complete unsolved mystery.
Well, the time I like that is in the Dark Knight movie or in Batman Begins, when he works for the Falcones and he's just a random thug, right? And he represents the worst of Gotham taking out the best of Gotham. Someone that's trying to help that person. Yeah. And so I like that because it gives a face to that person, of that citizen of Gotham, right?
Sure. But in general, I don't need it to be this mystery that Bruce solves. No. I mean, I hope this bit never comes up again. Really, that is my one concern from this issue. Because for the most part, none of this is ever going to happen. It's fine. It's just it's borderline and Elseworlds.
Well, it's a metaverse thing, right? This is a universe that exists now because of the New 52, and because this is all New 52 Batman.
I think this really actually plays with the metaverse idea in a very neat way, because the ending of this, after they win, we get the final part, because this book's been split into 9 parts, 3 for each issue, and in the final part it's like doorway, and we're in just out in the street, in the day, and there's a portal about to open, and they know there's a portal coming, and they've marked the spot, and then what lands but baby Clark's rocket,
Right.
and this feels like this is the metaverse thing, right? This is okay. This is now it's time for Superman in this Earth, so to speak.
It's getting a jump start basically from what it was.
It's going to go from all that terrible awfulness that it was, and now Superman's here, so it's all going to be all right in the future.
Right.
Like even Joker is like, oh man, Superman's here.
Right.
And I really like this ending because again, for all of the story, as much as this is the Bat God, as you say, and only Batman can win. Right. At the end of it, it's no, Superman's here, hope is restored, and I kind of like that.
Right, which would have been cool if we didn't see the Superman robot, right? Like, in the last one, if we had just gotten hit that Superman was gone,
That's fair.
Right. So, but also there's a whole part with Martian Man as I was flipping through.
Oh yeah, so there's a two-pronged attack when they have to take out before they to take out Omega. So Omega's got this signal which is brainwashing people. He's got the thing that's sending the signal, and then the amplifier.
It's so the anti-life, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. And Martian Manhunter is the amplifier because he can, psychically beam it into everyone on Earth because he's that strong. And they've done something to him so that he tries to resist. He's got like a metal socket in his head, like where he's had information downloaded into him. He's not Jean anymore. Some cool art stuff where he's taken out Wonder Woman and he his arm shapeshifts into like a crab claw.
Yeah,
that's kind of cool. He definitely looks older, and he looks like Piccolo from Dragon Ball Z. Or
he's definitely more alien.
He looks like King Piccolo from Dragon Ball. Is exactly what he looks like.
Sure.
The old man version essentially, and it's kind of cool.
But he basically does he sacrifice himself? No.
Yeah, they kind of stop him though, don't they? They take him out.
Yep. So. Before because he realizes,
Yeah, and Diana uses the lasso of truth to kind of remind him of who he is.
Wake him up.
Yeah.
Yep. And he stops the signal, and that's eventually, But no, I just knew exactly where it was going. It was nice after reading Doomsday Clock to see the baby Clark show up and make that connection.
Yeah.
But this was something I was really excited for. So being disappointed kind of sucks, just because.
I agree. Like, I don't think this is a bad issue in any way. Well, I actually think it's pretty solid, if somewhat predictable.
It comes down to a taste thing, I guess. Too.
Yeah, I think it has a bit of a rougher start in that it does feel like, the first two issues. Not that they didn't matter, but like that. This was just, hey, if you didn't catch those last two issues and someone just told you this is the last Snyder Capullo Batman issue and you need to read this for whatever reason, it was the hot thing at the shop that week, and they were just going, hey, you
it wasn't. Come on now.
I know. I'm saying theoretically, in that scenario, you could pick this issue up and you could read it without having read the other two issues, and it works, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But not all entirely bad, and Capullo kills it.
Yeah, the art's fantastic. That's not a complaint. It goes full Snyder, and
It does, yeah.
After going full Snyder, and I respect that guy a lot because he does do, big stories. I think I enjoy them more than Pete does, but his Batman stories, I'm over it by now. So what you rating it, Connor?
I'm gonna give it a 7, but it's a pretty soft 7.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it 5.5, and most of that's the art.
Oh, that's low for Matt. That's really low.
You may as well find out where Scott. You might as well find out where Scott Snyder lives and stalked his family for a week and left some creepy messages in his mailbox.
That's okay. I enjoy Justice League. He gets a pass from there. I love Metal, so
I'm more of a plastic man.
Yeah, I know.
That was terrible.
That was a quality joke. That'll take us on then to Joker Killer Smile issue 2. Jeff Lemire writing with Andrea Sorrentino on the art. This is the Second, is this a 3 or 4 issue book?
I think it's 3.
This is 3. Okay. So what's interesting about this one is that this is your Black Label book, but it's not actually that much bigger in page count. I mean, the pages themselves are bigger, but the page count's not that much more than a regular issue. It still didn't read much longer than a regular issue.
I'm just counting now how much is actually story.
It's nothing compared to like Harleen and the other Black Label books that are these big supersized things.
It's about 32 pages of story, or maybe 30-ish. But I mean that's still, I mean, significantly more than an average issue.
It's less than half a Harleen though, so it feels. I think it reads quick enough that it actually just feels like a regular book when you're reading it.
I think it really helps that Lemire and Sorrentino have obviously an exceptionally tight relationship at this point, so there is very little just superfluous dialogue. There is absolute trust between them.
Yeah, so the big twist here with this one at the end is that the therapist who's been seeing Joker and has been, we had the stuff last issue with the book that his son had kind of matching up with stuff that the Joker was saying and things like that. His wife was concerned, he was only going to do this job for 3 weeks. This issue hits us with a twist that it's been 3 years, and his wife and son's actually left him, despite the fact that we see several scenes in this issue with him, with his wife and son, and the book ends with him going home. There's no one really there. He's been kind of, and it's this kind of thing where, I mean, I think it does I'm kind of reading it as, in issue 1, technically he wasn't crazy yet, and it was the start of this period, but his actual assignment of working with the Joker is during this 3-year period that his wife and son have left him, and he's basically fabricated a version of them in his head.
He's in complete denial.
And he's losing his shit at Joker. He's screaming at him, and Joker seems to know their names. He doesn't remember telling them their names, and the book ends with him like painting like clown makeup on his face.
It kind of feels like the Joker movie.
Yeah, well, it's very Joker movie-esque, the actual scheme, the color scheme of this makeup.
Well, that sounds like something I want to revisit.
No, not in any way that actually reminds you of anything the movie does plot or thematically, just in terms of the visual.
Yeah, because the book starts off with him talking about how crazy people are kind of in their own world, and it's this kind of like sort of fictional scene where he's at a diner called Arkham's, and it's like all the villains are the waiters and the cook and the all that. Two-Face is the concierge, and Croc's the cook, Ivy's a waitress, Harley's a waitress, Bane's just kind of over there.
Yeah.
Kind of like in King's Run, right?
Yeah. Bane is chilling in the back like Han Solo style. Kind of just sat down, relaxing.
He's having a chat with Riddler. We got Peg.
Bane doesn't shoot first; he punches first.
Yeah. Peg, Penguin, Mad Hatter, all sitting at tables. It's just all this. And Joker comes in and talks to him. The art here is great. There's actually a tease of his Joker makeup here, or his clown makeup that he's going to put on at the end. In this opening scene.
Joker presents him with his own head, decapitated head, but with the makeup.
Yeah, but it's a nightmare. Of course, he wakes up and the wife and son are there, and obviously the big twist kind of takes all this away at the end.
As I said, one of my favorite pages in the book, art-wise, is the fork into the brain, and the building blocks underneath kind of falling apart. It's these blocks that have got what very much seems to be like a Rorschach test kind of on them, and it's all all the narration at this point is about there are two worlds, but how do you know which one you're in? And it's going back to the start of the book, the world that the sane people are in and the world that the insane people are in. And I assume this is, if you look at this block, this tower of blocks from different angles, you'll see different images in it. Because it looks like there are different things on different corners.
Sorrentino's art's fantastic throughout. It's one of those things where I actually love the more, I don't want to say mundane, but the more normal talking head stuff from Sorrentino. It's got such a great look to it. The expressions are really well handled. Really
cold flat colors.
Yeah, I think that's really working with it. But yeah, I mean, that's basically what it is. And of course, he drives back out to the Arkham at the end. in the rain. Thunder's cracking above to go and demand Joker tell him how he knew his wife and son's name. And when he says, it's been 3 years, I mean, that's teased earlier on as well, because he references that 3 weeks isn't enough. And the person running Arkham is like, 3 weeks, wait? And she gets interrupted before she can finish her sentence. But
Clayface is stuck in the pipes again. That cracked me up.
He went for a shower and he got stuck in the pipes. But he goes home and the house is empty and like no one's there. He finds the book and we have the red background starting to really sort of trickle in here. And he goes to the mirror and he puts on his clown makeup, and it ends with him laughing with his clown makeup on.
I think I realize how this is really differentiates itself from Harleen, because in the first issue we kind of felt like it was very similar, and I guess you could argue, oh, this is a guy going crazy as a result of the Joker still, right? But it's so different now as opposed to the first issue, which actually felt
no, because the first issue is about infatuation. This is about him just outright losing time and losing his sanity.
Yeah.
So despite the fact, I mean, I still think this would have been better not to come out in the same week as Harleen, just for the sake of spreading these types of books out.
Sure.
But it does differentiate itself better, and I think again this is going to be a pretty good little trade of about 100 pages by the time it's done.
And again, it'll look gorgeous.
Yes, so the hint of these Black Label books, and I think obviously Harleen overshadows this one a little bit, which is insane because it's Lemire and Sorrentino, but
this is still a great
issue.
But
it's Sejic though.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is still a great issue from a killer creative team. Like they're top form team, and this is absolutely worth your time if you're interested in
this is a good psychological Joker story.
Harleen's better.
Yes. Well, Harleen got triple tens, whereas we're about to rate this, and what are you giving it?
I'm going to give it an 8.5 still, which feels low after Harleen, but it's still great.
Yeah. I'm going to give it a 9. I mean, it's great.
It really is.
It's I think this issue is better than the first one. I think it's really.
I do as well. I think it really set itself apart. I think it has a great tone, and because we've got a bit more sense of what's going on here. Because early on there is that tease of the time, so it's in your head throughout the rest of the issue as well. So it doesn't feel like it just comes out of nowhere at the end, and so throughout it you're like something's not right, and you're trying to piece it together. Yeah.
So. That's Joker Killer Smile, which does take us on to the last book of this epic. Was it 18 books this week we had total? Something like that.
I read 15, if that helps.
I read 15 too, and there was 3 I didn't read, so I think it was 18.
There's only 2 I didn't read, so do the maths.
Or was it 2 I didn't read? Maybe it was 2 I didn't read.
I didn't read Shazam, Legion.
No, it was 17 because we had it wasn't even numbers. Yeah, it was 7 and 9.
Yeah, so I read 15.
Did we all read 15 books?
I think we all read 15 books, but obviously it was
I didn't read Killer Smile or Dead Earth.
Yeah, I didn't read Last Night on Earth or...
Oh, you lucked out.
Jimmy Olsen.
Or Jimmy Olsen. That's what 2 I didn't read.
And I didn't read Legion and Shazam.
Anyway, final book of the batch. I mean, all 3 of us did read it. This is Basketful of Heads, issue 3. Joe Hill writing with LEOMACS on the art.
Still killing it on art.
Yeah, art's still fantastic. This is following up. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but the girl's name is June, right? Is that right?
Judy. Yep, June.
Yeah, go. Fantastic. It's always harder with these new characters that aren't superheroes to try and remember their names.
You have to actually pay attention.
She's sitting with a decapitated head that's still talking to her, and I do kind of like how this criminal goes back and forth between completely vile and threatening all sorts of things. When my friends get back, they're going to take turns on you and. All these kind of veiled things, but then he'll flip to seconds later saying, "But you're a good person. You wouldn't hurt me. You're a good person. Don't don't drown me."
I like the realization too that he's like, "You should have just left me to drown." And he's like, "Wait, I don't have lungs to drown. What would have happened?" And you get to that him underwater being taken up by the tide with the crab on his face.
Yeah, he would just be there forever, presumably, if he's not dying now. And even she's like, that's too cruel. Even though you're a complete bastard, that's actually super cruel.
And so he drops on her that they came basically for her boyfriend, and that the girl that jumped from the bridge, to kill herself, had the backpack was also full of money.
Which mysteriously never made it to the evidence.
Never made it to the evidence.
As he describes it, her boyfriend all of a sudden had a nice new, shades and a watch and like I said, car, but like he was looking like he was like
he looked like Burt Reynolds.
Kind of. Yeah. He had that 70s. The shirt was open to show the chest, and he was leaning back in the car, and he was living life large.
Well, and then we find out too that this is probably more 80s because there's a reference to a song that was on the radio.
We knew it was 80s.
Was it?
Yeah, I think he just looked more 70s in that panel when he was on the car.
Well, because I thought he was going for like a timeless kind of, late 70s, 80s-ish, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, they specified 80s in the first issue, I'm sure, but...
Did they? I gotta go back and read it.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, Brody Island, like, we're doing Jaws.
Well, I know.
Obviously, Jaws was 77, but, like...
Yeah.
That's why it feels 70s maybe in places. Fine. You're right. No, Close Encounters was 77.
Yeah. I know. I know. Jaws is one of my 3 favorite movies of all time, Pete. Come on.
All right. Okay, I slept by 2 years. All right.
Star Wars now was 77.
Star Wars was 77. That's correct. But Jaws is a better movie, so that's okay.
No. Taste. But, and it's easy to remember because...
Matt was more diplomatic than me there.
Right. Well, and it's easy to remember because Indiana Jones was created by Lucas and Spielberg when they went to Hawaii because both were waiting on the results, like the box office, for Close Encounters and Star Wars.
Yeah, because they had a bet. They both bet the other one's film would do better, so Spielberg won that bet.
Yep. So he won, and the rest is history. And then they create the character of Indiana Jones, and
that's a good bet because either way you win.
Yeah.
Either you win the bet and you get whatever you get from that, or your movie did better and you got that going for you.
Well, and then what's his name? Conan's guy. The documentary is about him. Walter and Lebowski is based on him. Help me out, Pete.
I don't know. What are we talking about?
He's also a director. Milius was part of a bet like that too, where they all traded later. One got. Yeah. Anyways, Jaws 75. That's been established. Pete made a mistake, and we can keep going.
I love that. Like that was about a good 2-minute rant of why Pete was wrong, essentially.
Yeah. Well, and I had evidence to back it up because of factoids that I know about my favorite movie. So.
That was a bit extreme for
weird flex, but I must.
Yes. The big thing here, though, is that she goes looking for help eventually. Storm's still happening, and she comes across someone she actually knows, someone she recognizes from the town.
Mr. Hamilton.
Yeah, Mr. Hamilton. And he is, come in the truck, we'll try and go and get help or whatever. There's a tree in the road, so they try and move it, but he can't. And it's worth mentioning, at this point...
She hacks at it with her axe.
Yes, but she's wearing a hoodie that he gave her, because she's obviously cold and wet and whatever, and she puts on this hoodie that's in there, and she finds in the pocket these clippers, which...
Gardening shears.
Yes, they jive with the story of how her boyfriend's pinky got cut off.
Yes, which she was told by the head.
Yes.
She was told by the head, and that they're going to start with his, private member, and then, but they said no, they went with the finger.
You can say
instead.
dick, Matt, but we don't have to censor it that badly.
I know, but still,
yes. Well, you could have just quoted and used they referred to it as skinny little prick.
Right. So, but they didn't, and so she reaches into this rain poncho. And there's those shears, and
they're covered in blood, and she realizes.
Yep.
Yeah, well, this guy Hamilton's in on it. He's one of the group.
Which again, I think doubles down on this dude's. The head I don't think wasn't on the chain gang. I still think he was a cop because she starts talking to Hamilton, and it almost seems like the sheriff's really not on the up and up, because they start talking about the collection of Viking artifacts and how the wife kind of loots them from museums, and that if it was maybe not the sheriff's not on the up and up, but people on the island, that if he knew where the wife was getting them from, she'd be on the chain gang too.
To be fair, that was just his assumption. Like, oh, I think she must have a side gig looting them
No,
because
I
they're
get that.
damn expensive.
But I'm also starting to get the vibe that nothing's quite on the up and up on
I
this
mean,
town.
that might be true. I don't know if we've got enough information to sort of like say that definitively yet. Because to me, it felt like no, his story about being on the chain gang was probably mostly true. And what this makes me think is that there's something fishy about how they escaped. Like, basically, this Hamilton guy, or maybe it was the sheriff, or well, maybe not the sheriff, but one of the cops, actually let them escape so that they could all, divvy up this money they could go and find or whatever.
Right, and again, I don't feel like the boyfriend is that character. Just from what we know from him from that first issue, like she points out, if he had so much extra money, why was he crashing at the sheriff's? Like why was he doing all this other stuff if
where'd the money go?
And as for why did he have a badge, I mean, I still think you could have maybe turned on whoever let him escape. Turned on
maybe, but I definitely feel nothing's on the up and up on this island, and
So the issue ends with this Hamilton guy beating her with a chain. And that's
she does get a nice whack off to the side of his leg with the axe, which looks painful.
And but I like having the backstory on those axes too, because he recognizes it from the collection, and that we see that when it's activated or whatever, they look like branches.
It goes red.
It goes red and stuff, and so I think that was fun. Like, I want this as a movie, man. I want Basketful of Heads the movie. So Joe Hill, get on it. Talk to your dad's people.
It may happen. I mean,
Netflix series too. That'd be cool. What's Lock and
at this
Keys
point? I'm not sure there's going to be enough in it for a Netflix, like a whole TV series.
Yeah, I mean,
like we're
Tales of
nearly
the Viking Axe.
Sure, yeah, but right now we're nearly halfway through, the book, and I can see this paced perfectly as as a movie.
Yeah, that's fine. I just want more good things in the world.
I get that. I just wouldn't want to see it stretched out and ruined.
Yeah, no, I get that too. Or compressed and rushed through.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So, but no, this is fantastic. So far I've yet to be let down by Hill House.
Yeah, there's not been a bad issue, has there?
No.
But this is yet another great issue of Basketful Heads.
And
what a surprise!
Well, yeah, and LEOMACS, the artist, it's so grimy, but in a good way.
Yeah, it really suits the story.
Right, like you feel you feel the sogginess of all the rain through the art and the colors and whatnot, and just that dude looks dirty. Like, he looks like the guy, Last Action Hero, the guy that throws the axes and stuff.
The guy in the raincoat?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I don't remember his name, but I get vibes of that actor. Just like he's dirty, and it's that guy.
It's that guy, yeah.
Yeah, so...
the guy from... what was the fictional movie called? But anyway, it's the end, because the whole thing is the fourth one's coming out, and that's the movie the kid gets sucked into. But it's the end of the third one that the guy in the raincoat kidnapped Arnold's son and had him on the roof.
And he dropped him. And that's what's his character's name?
What's it? Jack Slater? Is that
Jack Slater? Yeah, Jack Slater is haunted in the third movie, or in the fourth movie by the events, and God, that's such a good movie. I want to go back and watch it.
Last Action Hero is pretty great.
I'm gonna find this out real quick.
But no, this issue was solid again. These are also reading pretty quickly, very atmospheric, which is kind of what I want from horror. I want atmosphere more than anything else. And it's building a bit of a mystery as to what's actually going on. And this is the thing, since the end of the first issue, June's been so separated from everyone else, and we've just been sticking with her, that we have no idea what's happened to the sheriff or her boyfriend. We're hearing these snippets, and we don't know what to really believe or trust. It's really giving it a nice mystery vibe that's, we're theorizing a bit, but so I think this is either 6 or 7 issues. So
7 now.
Yeah, so we'll see. But that was issue 3. What are you giving it, Matt?
Oh, I'm giving this a 9.
Car?
I'm gonna go slightly below with an 8.5.
I'll agree with 8.5. I think. Go with 8.5. Okay. So there you go. That is the book, and that brings an end to the books on this episode and all the books of this week. So we're at the portion of the show where we're going to pick our favourites, favourite panel/moment, favourite art, favourite cover, and of course, top 5
and
books.
then basically, why is everything Doomsday Clock?
Yeah, but I also have honorable mentions that I want to spotlight. So,
Are we doing honorable mentions? That seems
I
like
always
cheating.
do. No, I always do. You know, me and Pete always say, "Hey, it's gonna be this," but we also liked this.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You know, yeah. So I have some others.
All right, well, panel/moment, Matt.
So I really love in Harleen that Ivy, like, because I'm a self-parody at this point.
Uh-huh.
Hey, that's fantastic, right? But it is from Doomsday Clock, and I could have picked from a bunch. Like, there's the Kents, right? They're coming out and, you know, hugging Lois and Clark. But there's the big moment when the Legion and the Justice Society arrive,
The big
when
double
time has been
splash.
fixed. Yeah. And Soups is right in the middle of that.
Yeah.
And it kind of represents what this book does, and put Superman at the center. So that's my moment.
Connor?
Well, that was going to be mine because it's fantastic. What else do I like in Doomsday?
Well, I'm
Clock?
picking that one as well, so I don't care if Matt picked it. That's the winner.
Some variety. Is you know, we can all agree that really that's
There's no rules saying we have to have different ones.
There's not, but I like spotlighting some different things as well as just the same thing over and over. Even though that is probably the best moment. I'm gonna go with the it's a little bit later in Doomsday Clock. It's the page where, you know, Superman's there and, you know, and all his allies return, and it's kind of just a spread of all these heroes that some we have right now, obviously, some we haven't seen in a while, and, you know, there's some that are new there, and, you know, and all the narration talking about how, you know, change is constant, but we'll always come back to Superman and his allies eventually.
All right. I'll also give a shout out to I Moved the Lantern Back panel, just because
That's a good one.
Because that line is just, that's where the spark is. It's beautiful. So, favourite cover of the week, Matt?
So this is one that's not going to be Doomsday Clock, because the Doomsday Clock ones are good. But Tula Lote's variant for Basketful of Heads, I really dig.
I have not seen any of the variants.
Yeah. So, well, it helps if you go to Diamond and look there, because they're there. You just have to hit back on the date.
Can you go back on Diamond?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's why when you said that they were not there anymore, I was like, yeah, you got to hit back.
I didn't realize you could go back on Diamond. I never tried it.
Yeah. It's not
Well, in
time
that
travel.
case, I'm going to go and have a look at the variant.
Bloody hell.
All right,
Peek
so
and
I'll give some time for Connor to look too, because there's the covers. I don't know, they don't really pop out this week.
Well, it's almost harder having to pick from 15 bloody books, most of which have two covers.
The Shazam variant's pretty cool. It looks like a something from the movie. I like that one. Dead Earth looks like a metal cover for an album. That one's pretty cool, I guess. Harleen, I guess, is that the playing card variant with the Joker, Harley, and Ivy.
Well, yeah, it's hard to argue with Sejic.
It's hard to argue with Sejic, right?
Yeah. It's hard to argue.
Aquaman, who did this Aquaman one? This looks like something out of a D&D manual.
Of course, there's a Matina Batman
Chris Stevens
variant. If that tickles
There's
your
always
fancy.
a Matina Batman variant.
Right?
Yeah. Honestly, I've narrowed it down to two. One of them is the Tula Lote Basketful of Heads, that Matt said. That's great.
Right?
The other one I'm going to go with is the Carrie Andrews variant for Joker Killer Smile.
Yeah, that one's kind of cool too.
I like that there are two Carrie Andrews variants this week. Both great, because the Shazam one's...
Is that him too?
Yep.
Wow, the one that looks like, okay.
Interesting.
What's up? Yeah.
Yeah, Shazam variant's pretty good, as is the Killer Smile one. I actually really like the regular Basketful of Heads.
That's nice as well. There's a lot of really solid covers.
Had I known there was a Tula Lote variant, I would have picked it up for Basketful of Heads. And not just grabbed my copy.
Yeah. Yeah, the variant's nice too. I can't really fault it. As for my favorite, I mean,
There's also a Matina variant for Suicide Squad. If anyone missed out on that one.
I'm actually just gonna go with the regular Doomsday Clock cover. Sometimes simplicity, and less is more, and it's just the that close up of the Superman logo with a little bit of blood.
It's nice.
Yeah, and it's the first panel as well of the story. So
I think just in terms of what's an iconic image that I'm always going to remember, that's what that is. I'm always going to remember that's Doomsday Clock 12. You know, always.
Yeah.
So that's my cover of the week. So favorite art of the week.
Can we just run down the top tier artists we have to choose from here?
Sure.
Because we got LEOMACS, we got Capullo, we've got Marquez, we've got Janin, we've got Gary Frank, we've got Sejic, Redondo, yeah. We've got Sorrentino.
Connor, there's only one answer though.
I know, but I wanted to just highlight. We got Epting, Daniel Warren Johnson on Wonder Woman Dead Earth. That's like 10 top tier artists right there, all on the same week.
Gary Frank.
It's Gary Frank, yeah. But the point is, we could have done a top 5 of artists this week, and all of them have been better than some of the other weeks that we had.
I mean, Sejic might beat Gary Frank and many a week, but there was too much emotional impact in the art in Doomsday Clock 12 to not sway it. So Gary Frank.
Yep. Yeah, I was gonna joke answer and say Sejic, but that's a lie.
This is why I wanted to highlight some of the others because
I get it.
All right. Well, in that case, here's the real task, Matt. Top 5 books.
This is quite easy looking at them all right here. So the 5, number 1 with a bullet's Doomsday Clock. Number 2 is the other 10. It's Harleen. That's where it gets a little more difficult because I can't remember because I don't write my numbers down. Where it gets more difficult, but I do know I gave Basketball Heads a 9. So that's a 3. That's a 3.
Probably gave about 6 other 9s though.
Maybe I don't think so. I'm not going to go Suicide Squad because I did like that quite a bit. So that's 4. Another one, what goes in the 5 spot that I really enjoyed?
Batman, obviously.
Yeah, you're funny. Do I go Lola Woods because I did enjoy that, or do I do something else? I'll give it to Jimmy Olsen. So yeah, so Doomsday Clock, Harleen, Basketful of Heads. Suicide Squad, Jimmy Olsen. Boom.
Carter?
Okay, so Doomsday Clock and then Harleen, 1 and 2, nice and easy. After that, I think Suicide Squad at 3. And Lolo Woods at 4. 5's tricky. I got a few. 5 is either Basketball of Heads, Jimmy Olsen, or Killer Smile. And I think I'm gonna edge it to Killer Smile.
All right. My number 1 is Doomsday Clock. My number 2 is Harleen. Number 3 is Suicide Squad because then Tom Taylor will be.
It's just copying me at this point.
Yeah, it'd be original.
I give Suicide Squad like a 9. Like, give me peace. Right. And then this is where it gets tougher.
Yeah.
Number 4 I'll give to Killer Smile, and number 5 I'll give to Basketful of Heads.
Nice.
So there we go.
80% of ours are the same, Pete.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Well, 80% the same as Connor as well. It's just
I know.
So, and I'll give a shout out to Lola Woods, which was impressive. I'll give a solid good time to Dead Earth 1 and Batman Superman, but
it was a
Batman
really
Superman
good week.
Almost made it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
it was a really good week, and then there was Batman.
That's the thing. I mean, you have 17 books. You're bound to have a few good ones. What
Yeah,
about
but it's not,
these?
I still think it's not fair putting Harleen and Doomsday Clock on the same week.
Honestly, looking at mine, I've got like 10 books that on another week could have been in the top 5 out of my 15. So
No.
it was a good week.
Yeah, I want to make it clear. Like, I really enjoy Metal Men, but it's not,
It's
competing
not
with
top
those.
tier with the others, is it?
Yeah.
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 So that's what it is. But there you go. That's our picks for this week. So I'll tell you what's coming on the next regular week of books, which is obviously not next week; it's the week after. In terms of the show, because we're doing our annual episode this week, doing our best of. So look out for links to the Google Doc with the voting. For you guys to sort of get involved in that, which will actually probably go out on Christmas Day, admittedly, now I'm thinking about the timeline. But you'll have a few days, obviously. You'll have until Saturday morning, basically, to get your votes in. So make sure you've got your votes in by Saturday. But what is coming next time we get books on the 1st of January, on New Year's Day? We got Action Comics 1018. We got Batgirl 42. Batman Beyond 39 is also out. We have Detective Comics 1018, Dial H for Hero issue 10, Harley Quinn 69 is out.
Flash 85.
Flash 85 is out. Don't worry, I did see it, but I just went to Harley first.
He just decided he didn't want to talk about Flash that time.
Well, no, because he saw Harley Quinn 69 and went, nice.
Joker Harley Criminal Sanity issue 2 is finally out. So that should be cool. And then we got Justice League Dark issue 18, Lois Lane number 7, Martian Manhunter number 11, Red Hood Outlaw 41, Superman Giant issue 1. We don't really talk about them usually, but it caught my eye.
No, but that one has a new story by Robert Venditti, so I'm curious about that one.
I think they all have like new stories in them, but
Yeah,
they're
they
physical
do.
only, aren't they?
Yeah, and so I look at them and go, do I want to pick that up? $5 for a Venditti story? Maybe not, because it might be collected somewhere else. But someone else might,
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, if it's going to be like a 6-part story, it probably will have a trade eventually. So,
Well, I don't think those are. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like the giant stories are kind of one-offs.
oh, well, they want
But I mean, collected elsewhere. Maybe show up in an annual or a.
They might do
Special.
a trade collecting
Yeah.
all the stories from the Giants.
So yes, and was that the last one? That was the last one.
Yeah. I mean, Terrific's
Terrific's 23
is also out.
There you go. That's the last one. So it's kind of a weird week because you've got a few regular week 1 books with all the week 4 stuff that didn't come out this week in advance. So it's a bit of a hodgepodge of a week.
Still pretty quiet. Like, I count 7 books, which is obviously less than just the back half of this week.
Yeah.
Although I believe Joker Harley Criminal Sanity is bigger, right?
Yeah, so that's
I believe
like a 40-page book or whatever it was.
Yeah, I thought so.
So that's cool. I enjoyed the first issue of that. So I'm curious to see issue 2. But yeah,
Kind of a slow start to the year, though, it feels like, doesn't it?
that is week 1 of 2020. Just a couple of things to remind you: there will be bonus episodes for the Flash 750 and Wonder Woman 750 in January and February. And we do have our episode 200 coming up at the end of March. So there's a couple of big sort of milestone-y things happening soon, which who knows what we're doing for them, to be honest, at this point. But I'm sure we'll do something. We'll do some extra special questions or something, or I don't know.
Hopefully it falls on a quiet week.
Thank you very much for joining us. This is Because from the Multiverse, episode 187. You can, of course, let us know what you think of all the books in the comments. You can like and subscribe and all the usual stuff. You get us on the Twitters at DC Comics Podcast to let us know what you think and talk to us and share us out on the Twitters and the social medias. That helps us out a lot. As does, of course, go to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, where you can support us for as little as $1 per month and get some bonuses and some other things. So go and have a look. In fact, I'll take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month. So thank you to David Short, Alison M. Fordyce, Cindy Palacios, and Tyler Hess for being our producers for the month. So you can be a producer at $20 tier or up, but of course you don't have to do that. You can support us for as little as $1 per month. So go and have a look and see if you're interested. But yeah, that's basically us. Obviously, I'll once again sort of pimp out a couple of things. We did a big Star Wars Rise of Skywalker review, all 3 of us. just recently, so you can find that on the YouTube page or on the Mailfuzz Movies podcast feed, and you can check out that. And there's a lot of stuff going on right now too. Mr. Robot, of course, will just wrap it up. Me and Corbin reviewing that. The finale's just about. I mean, by the time this goes up, the finale review will be there. And we also have, of course, Lost in Space Season 2 just starting, so me and Corbin will be reviewing that too. So go check out all these things that are going on. But that's us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, guys, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.